How is it possible for a person to be visible and invisible at the same time? How can we dislike or fear them without even knowing them as people? Maybe they aren't dressed very well, or seem a little odd, or they don't speak English. We can see that they're there, but we don't acknowledge them. The truth is that we often walk right past people without seeing them. The poison of invisibility is that it allows society to define people in a negative way, to marginalize and to exclude them from community. It can even make them targets of violence. Few people actually choose to be invisible or unseen. People who have felt this way are not alone. The woman in today's gospel, the one bent over for 18 years, understood the pain of invisibility all too well. She knew it better than most people. She had a chronic disability in a time and place when a significant percentage of religious people associated a disability with God's judgment. And before we get too self-righteous about them, we might want to remember that even now, 2,000 years later, a lot of people hold those similar beliefs. The woman also faced challenges because she lived in a patriarchal society. She lived in a society in which the voices, needs, and men were usually privileged, and the voices, needs, and rights of women were usually ignored. Adding to her burden was the chronic pain she must have endured every day, all the time. Some commentators believe she had a condition now identified as ankylosing spondylitis, in which the fusion of the bones in the spine create ongoing stiffness, inflammation, fatigue, and acute pain. She endured two kinds of pain: the torturous physical pain of having a debilitating condition, and the intense psychological pain of being rendered invisible. We don't know whether she suffered in silence or out loud, but we do know that she suffered greatly. According to one commentator, people with physical deformities were expected to remain socially invisible, especially if they were women. Women rarely, if ever, approached rabbis, nor did rabbis, as a rule, speak to women. People like her lived with pain and without spiritual support. However, there is someone near to her who sees things differently. More important to this story, he sees people differently. He encounters her after concluding his Sabbath teaching. Women were not permitted inside the sanctuary of the synagogue at the time, so he had to seek her out and break with custom. Jesus sees this woman when no one else does. Scripture says as much. When Jesus saw her, throughout his ministry, Jesus made a point of seeing those who were forgotten, left out, and unnoticed by others. Jesus does not just see her, he does more. He acts to bring about the transformation that she seeks. He called her over. The God who sees us is the God who calls us. She has been outside the synagogue and he invited her in. She had been on the periphery and he brought her to the center. She was invisible at one moment and responding to his call the next. Jesus lays his hands on her to heal her. He also offers her words of life. Woman, you are free of your ailment, he declares. Through words and acts of healing, he sets her free. Jesus sees her, calls her, lays hands on her, speaks to her, and frees her. If the story ended right here, we might be satisfied with the transformation she experienced. She went from being an outcast to being part of the community. But not everyone is happy with what Jesus has done. Jesus has healed on the Sabbath. The synagogue leader is indignant when he sees what has happened. You could have done this any other day of the week. Come back then and be cured, but no healing on the Sabbath. Not surprisingly, Jesus doesn't react very well. He does not spare him or mince words. He calls this man and others like him hypocrites. Why, he asks, is it acceptable to unbind a donkey on the Sabbath to give it water and not unbind a woman who was bound for 18 years? An animal, yes, but a person, no. Jesus broke the rules. He did what was necessary, what was compassionate, and what was right. He worked on the Sabbath. Jesus looked past the customs and practices of the day to see a person in need, and he took action. For those of us who consider ourselves to be followers of Jesus, let us remember this. When we do not see others, Jesus confronts us. The church is not meant to be a country club or a gated community. It's a place where those who are seen and freed, God empowered, freed by God, who are empowered to see others with eyes of faith and to take action. We are living in a particularly fraught time in American history. Our friends and neighbors are concerned and frightened about many things: political corruption, the possibility of political violence, and fear that coworkers, neighbors, friends will be swept up unfairly in raids conducted by masked federal agents, to name just a few concerns. So what will we do? Will we actually see the pain and injustice others are experiencing, or will we look the other way? So I will leave you with these questions. Who do you see? And when might you be called to break the rules to defend others?